Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing? This is Mr. Ebo Richards. You're watching Hejspan TV. Hejspan TV is a division of IZ Corp Exchange on the IZ Corp Exchange and is a member of the IZ Corp Exchange in good standings. This is a second pilot. We're sitting out here in a nice comfortable place where we like to chill here in the Upper East in South Florida. And some more questions were posed to me about hedge funds and exactly what do you expect from managers. So before we get to go into it, managers and hedge funds make a lot of money. They do very well for their communities and their families and for themselves. And the good thing about it is a lot of hedge funds managers, they're not even known. I've had hedge fund managers walk right by me, and I wouldn't even know who they were if I hadn't met them or known them personally. And they're very wealthy people, and they can help a lot of people. They're in a position, they're blessed to help people. So that's why we're in the hedge fund business, and we study the regulations and the profits and stuff like that. So again, we just had to get the video done. We're sitting here, it's raining, so it looks really nice out here, and the flowers are blooming. So we get into again, my name is Mr. Ebo Richards, CEO of Hejspan, and Hejspan is a division of IZ Corp Exchange, and this is a second pilot we're running to see if we can even keep the television show alive or even get it going. We're looking at the macro funds, like the macro of trading, the macro of anything. A lot of prop trading comes with it, and they say, well, what makes a manager, a good macro? Macro is like the word that everybody's looking for now because the emerging markets are established. It's here, and it's not going away. This isn't 1967 where the U.S. economy and it was U.S. and Russia, and maybe China. I mean, you have the BRIC nations, you have everything, and the alternative investments that come with it. So imagine on a broad scale of the emerging markets or the emerging economies, being a manager, and you're not just looking at, well, let's say the S&P or the what we call the weighted index at IZ Corp Exchange. You're looking at Hang Sengs, Nikkei's, Nigerian markets. I mean, there's opportunities all over the planet in farming, in agriculture, in solar paneling, in manufacturing, in imports and exports, in just taxing. So what makes a manager able to just say, because you can't dibble and dabble in everything. You have your fun, and you pick your strategy, and you work with your strategy. I would encourage everyone, to understand your product, to understand exactly what you're doing, and education is key. Being competitive is always there, but being, not having a lot of secrets. Knowing what you're doing, but not really having a lot of secrets. And you're always constantly improving your skill and the skill of people around you. You have your strategy, you have your formula, you do your building, and taxes. Taxes is very important. You have to understand the tax structure that you're in, as far as building and starting your company or becoming a hedge fund manager. Some owners, they just, like banks, a big bank, they just recruit people. But again, most people don't last with, let's say, a Citadel comes in, or a UBS comes in, or a Goldman Sachs comes in, and they hire a manager, and they take good care of their manager, and he's in control of the whatever department he's in, and he may even be considered a hedge fund manager to him. But here at Hejspan, we look for the managers that are on their own, the managers that have taken their skills, their know-how, their abilities, what's inside of them, who they know they are, and take that into the real world, into the real industry, and start their own business. You can be a manager of a Fortune 500 company, and that's great. You're still the same person, but that's not what Hejspan is looking for. Hejspan is looking for the people that grow their own business. You see what I'm saying? To take their skills, what they learn, and create another entity which is big enough and broad enough to be out there on its own and create opportunities for investments and investors and growth in whatever given economy it happens to be in. So understand your products, and another thing about the macro, people don't understand is you have the currencies. You have the U.S. dollar and you have the euro. But what is the third currency? See, this is just to show you the opportunities now. Like over the last 15, 20 years, it's just been the US dollar and the euro. Now what is the third currency? What is the fourth currency? Being that the emerging markets are merging, I would tell your manager, that's one of the first things I would ask him. You have the dollar, you have the euro, that's a given. Well, what is the third currency? A lot of managers, like from Bohobowitz Management now and Starshine Investments and a few of the hedge funds that are with IZ Corp Exchange, they think gold is the third currency. But then it could be a group of the Asian currencies put together. That's how broad the market is now, and the appetite for risk is there. It's shorter versus longer. You have the day trader, you have the traders and the interest rate traders and those things that are looming constantly in the market. But then you have to look at the broad perspective, which is a longer investment. And being that the technology and what's coming in this country and this planet now is longer beats shorter by far. Many would argue. But again, whatever strategy you take, that's totally on to you. We're just looking at the manager from a macro point of view. And there's a summit coming up from Hejspan, whether we're on the TV or not, which will address with fund managers and hedge fund managers, what is the macro? What does macro mean to you today? Not when you first got into the industry in 19 whatever, but what does it mean to you today? And that's going to be very good because we have some good managers coming, and it's going to be interesting on what they have to say because developed markets and advanced economies make up more than 0.5% of the planet's GDP, more than half. It's just not U.S. now. Outside the U.S. Inside, it's like outside the U.S. and inside emerging markets, along with the world population. Half of the population is invested in emerging markets, and policy affects the emerging markets. So you have to know your taxes and your strategies and stuff like that. The assets within the economies, the assets within the markets. You need to really to figure those out and understand what makes those better and what makes them able to propel the economy, to draw investors in. So if you have a fund or you're in that part of the region, will you be able to grow with the economy? You can just take your thing and just stay there and just be like a doornail or a doormat, but with the opportunities, as IZ Corp Exchange would say, we're looking to see more human development and the quality of life, and with that becomes more investments and more dollars and more profits. So we're looking for stuff like that. The making investments is more about the global trend, and there's a lot of alternatives that drive the macro scene. Now you have to define alternatives on your own. It depends on what strategy you're in and what are you looking for. But in the future, we're looking forward, a manager, and what I've gotten from my managers and the managers at IZ Corp Exchange, and not just the hedge fund manager, because a lot of the competitive business, even the remedial businesses, services and products, they operate like hedge funds. A lot of them, they're guided by hedge fund managers, and they take a lot of what hedge fund managers on the exchange have to say. And they believe that in the future, the U.S. dollar will always be the U.S. dollar. You know what I'm saying? Whether even if it's pulling back in a couple of years, or so the strength will always be there. But from a macro point of view, the U.S. dollar will be sustained, but it may not be as strong as it is today. But the Asian currencies will become stronger. As the world turns, many are looking into that, and that could be a part of your third currency. So keep currencies into effect as becoming a manager on the macro level, and higher equity. You're always looking for the highest equity, and being aware that the emerging markets has a lot of moving parts. There is there's so many policies and regulations where people where countries don't do business with each other because they disagree on certain policies, so they don't allow their people to migrate or to move through that part of the world as easily as some other people might be able to move in and out of those markets. And you have to watch that. Those are serious moving parts moving forward. Bilateral agreements, free trade agreements. So all of this is, and that doesn't even scratch the surface of the macro level. So working hard in education and being competitive, and not so much the appetite for risk, but being curious. Just like not like wondering, like not so much taking advantage of the situation or just like using people to get where you want to be, but just not like playing your cards or like gambling, but just like speculating, if you will, just curious, like what would happen if this country did this, or if this happens. And what I noticed a lot of managers on the IZ Corp Exchange do is they focus like what I teach them, or what they've learned from me, or what they've taken from me, is you're looking at your appetite is a function of a worst case scenario. So you anything can happen, but you always keep in mind what's the worst case scenario, and that is your stop, that is your backstop. So you start your fund and you say, what's the worst case scenario here, and then you feed off of that and you grow off of that. Again, this is just a global macro view of what we look for, or what I would tell a starting hedge fund manager. And again, this is Hejspan, a division of IZ Corp Exchange. You're watching Hejspan Television. My name is Mr. Ebo Richards, and again, this was a global macro view, and we're just sitting here in the Upper East trying to stay dry. We haven't got some rain in a while, so it was a lot of fun making this video, but we had to get it done. And again, thank you, and have a great day. Goodbye.